Baby Triceratops abandoned by herd. Then a human saves its life. How will this story unfold? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The sun rose over a prehistoric valley, casting its golden light across a sprawling landscape teeming with life. Towering ferns swayed gently in the breeze, their fronds glistening with morning dew. In the distance, a herd of Triceratops moved steadily through the dense undergrowth, their powerful legs shaking the earth with each step. At the back of the herd was a baby Triceratops, its tiny horns barely visible above the grass. The little dinosaur, later to be known as Sprout, struggled to keep up with the larger members of its family. Its legs wobbled as it stumbled over rocks and roots, its soft cries drowned out by the thunderous footsteps of the herd. The adults paid no attention to Sprout's plight. Their focus was on the path ahead, where danger could lurk at any moment. Predators like the fearsome Tyrannosaurus Rex roamed these lands, always on the hunt for an easy meal. For the Triceratops herd, survival depended on unity and strength. But for Sprout, who was small and weak, keeping up was a near impossible task. As the herd crossed a shallow river, Sprout hesitated. The water was cold and fast-moving, and the little Triceratops was terrified of being swept away. It let out a plaintive cry, hoping one of the adults would turn back to help. But the herd pressed on, their massive bodies creating waves that splashed against the rocks. Sprout took a tentative step into the water, its small hooves sinking into the mud. The current tugged at its legs, and it stumbled, falling onto its side. Panic set in as the little dinosaur struggled to stand, its cries growing louder. By the time Sprout managed to pull itself out of the river, the herd was gone. The lush greenery that had once been filled with the comforting sounds of its family was now eerily silent. Sprout stood alone, its small body trembling as it looked around the unfamiliar terrain. The realization that it had been left behind hit like a thunderclap, and tears welled in its large, expressive eyes. Meanwhile, miles away, Alex adjusted the straps on their heavy backpack, scanning the prehistoric landscape with awe. They had spent years preparing for this moment, a chance to witness a world that existed millions of years before humanity. The time travel experiment had been risky, but the opportunity to study dinosaurs in their natural habitat had been too great to pass up. Alex was a paleontologist with a lifelong fascination for dinosaurs. They had spent countless hours piecing together fossils and theorizing about the lives of these ancient creatures. But nothing could compare to seeing them in the flesh. The sight of a herd of Stegosaurus grazing in the distance, their plates catching the sunlight, left Alex breathless. "This is incredible," Alex murmured, pulling out their notebook to jot down observations. They had only been in this time period for a day, but every moment had been filled with wonder. As Alex ventured deeper into the valley, they noticed a faint sound, a soft, plaintive cry that stood out against the natural hum of the prehistoric world. Curious, Alex followed the sound, their heart racing with anticipation. When Alex finally reached the source of the noise, they froze. There, standing in a small clearing, was a baby Triceratops. Its small body was covered in mud, and its eyes were wide with fear. Alex's breath caught in their throat. This was a moment they had dreamed of, but the reality was far more heartbreaking than they had imagined. The baby Triceratops looked up at Alex, its cries faltering. It took a hesitant step backward, its tiny legs trembling. Alex dropped to one knee, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Hey there," they said softly, their voice gentle. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The little dinosaur tilted its head, its curiosity momentarily overriding its fear. Alex reached into their backpack and pulled out a canteen of water. They poured a small amount into their hand and held it out, hoping to show the baby that they meant no harm. To Alex's surprise, the baby stepped closer, its nostrils flaring as it sniffed the water. After a moment's hesitation, it lapped up the water, its small tongue flicking against Alex's palm. Alex smiled, their hearts swelling with a mixture of relief and wonder. "You're just a little one, aren't you?" they said. "Where's your family?" But Alex already knew the answer. The baby's muddy appearance and plaintive cries told a clear story. It had been left behind. Whether it was because of injury, weakness, or a moment of panic, the herd had abandoned it, leaving it to fend for itself in a world filled with predators. Alex felt a pang of sadness as they looked at the baby Triceratops. They knew the odds of survival for a lone dinosaur were slim, but they couldn't bring themselves to leave it behind. "Well," Alex said, their voice firm, "I guess you're stuck with me now." Alex gently reached out toward the baby Triceratops, careful not to move too quickly and startle it. The little creature watched them intently, its large eyes blinking slowly. It didn't flinch as Alex's hand came closer, and when they finally touched the soft, leathery skin of its forehead, the baby let out a small huff. "There we go," Alex murmured. "You're not so scared anymore, are you?" The bond between Alex and the baby Triceratops began to form almost immediately. Alex decided to name the baby Sprout, inspired by its small, greenish frill that reminded them of a new leaf. The name felt fitting for such a young and vulnerable creature in a world as wild as this. Sprout seemed to sense that Alex meant no harm, but it was still hesitant to follow them. Alex rummaged through their backpack, searching for anything that might encourage Sprout to come closer. They found a piece of fruit, a small, prehistoric berry they had collected earlier, and held it out. Sprout's nostrils flared as it sniffed the air, and its tiny mouth opened slightly. The sight of the fruit seemed to spark something in the baby's instincts, and it cautiously stepped forward, its small hooves crunching softly on the ground. With a quick snap of its beak, Sprout took the fruit and began chewing. Alex couldn't help but laugh softly. "You're hungry, aren't you? Don't worry, little one. I'll make sure you're taken care of." With Sprout in tow, Alex set up a small camp in a clearing, using the materials they had brought with them. They knew that staying in one place for too long could be dangerous. Predators might pick up their scent, but they needed to assess Sprout's condition and figure out their next move. Sprout stayed close as Alex worked, occasionally letting out soft chirps that sounded almost like questions. Alex responded with soothing words, hoping to reassure the little dinosaur. "It's just you and me now," they said. "We'll get through this together." As the day turned to evening, Alex built a small fire to keep predators at bay. Sprout seemed fascinated by the flames, its golden eyes reflecting the flickering light. Alex watched as the baby tentatively reached out with its beak to investigate, only to pull back quickly when the heat became too intense. "Careful," Alex said with a chuckle. "That's not something you want to play with." Over the next few days, Alex and Sprout began to settle into a routine. Alex spent their mornings searching for food, berries, edible plants, and the occasional insect, and their afternoons teaching Sprout how to find food on its own. It wasn't easy. Sprout was still young and clumsy, often tripping over its own feet as it tried to forage. But Alex was patient, guiding the baby with gentle encouragement. Sprout, in turn, began to grow more confident. It followed Alex everywhere, its small legs working tirelessly to keep up. The bond between them deepened, and Alex found themselves marveling at the resilience of this tiny creature. One afternoon, as they rested near a stream, Alex noticed Sprout nudging at the water with its beak. The baby let out a triumphant chirp as it managed to catch a small fish, which it promptly dropped in surprise. Alex laughed, their voice echoing across the clearing. "You're learning, Sprout," they said. "You're stronger than you think." But the prehistoric world was not without its dangers. One evening, as Alex and Sprout settled down for the night, a low growl echoed through the trees. Alex's heart raced as they grabbed a makeshift spear they had crafted from a sturdy branch. Sprout pressed close to their side, its small body trembling with fear. From the shadows emerged a pack of raptors, their sleek bodies moving with predatory grace. Their eyes glinted in the firelight as they circled the camp, their sharp claws clicking against the ground. Alex tightened their grip on the spear, their mind racing as they tried to come up with a plan. "Stay behind me, Sprout," Alex whispered, their voice steady despite the fear coursing through them. The raptors lunged, their movements swift and coordinated. Alex swung the spear, managing to fend off the first attack, but the pack was relentless. Just as one of the raptors closed in on Sprout, The baby let out a loud, piercing cry, a sound that seemed to freeze the predators in their tracks. It was then that Alex realized something extraordinary. Sprout's cry wasn't just a call for help. It was a signal. In the distance, a deep, resonant bellow answered, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. The raptors hesitated, their heads turning toward the source of the noise. From the shadows emerged a massive adult Triceratops, its horns glinting in the firelight. The sight of the towering dinosaur was enough to send the raptors scattering, their sleek forms disappearing into the trees. Alex let out a shaky breath, lowering their spear. They turned to Sprout, who was chirping excitedly. "You called for help," Alex said, their voice filled with awe. And it came. The encounter with the raptors left Alex and Sprout shaken but unharmed. The adult Triceratops, however, didn't linger. It gave Sprout a brief, curious glance before turning and disappearing into the forest. Alex felt a pang of disappointment but understood that the bond between a herd and its members was complex. "You'll find your place again," Alex said to Sprout, stroking the baby's frill. "But until then, I'll be here for you." The experience only strengthened Alex's determination to protect Sprout. They began teaching the baby defensive behaviors, using sticks and rocks to simulate potential threats. Sprout proved to be a quick learner, lowering its tiny head and mimicking the charging stance of an adult Triceratops. "You've got a lot of fight in you," Alex said with a smile. "That's going to keep you safe, despite the challenges." There were moments of joy and wonder that made everything worthwhile. Alex and Sprout often played together, chasing each other through the tall grass and splashing in streams. Sprout's laughter-like chirps filled the air, a sound that never failed to lift Alex's spirits. One day, as they rested beneath a canopy of trees, Alex pulled out a small sketch pad from their backpack. They began to draw Sprout, capturing the baby's curious expression and the delicate details of its frill. Sprout watched with fascination, occasionally nudging Alex's arm with its beak. "You're quite the model," Alex said with a chuckle. "Maybe I'll hang this on my wall when we get back." The thought of returning to their own time brought a pang of sadness. Alex knew their time in this prehistoric world was limited, and the bond they had formed with Sprout made the idea of leaving even harder to bear. But they also knew that Sprout's survival depended on finding a herd, a family that could teach the baby everything it needed to thrive. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex sat by the fire with Sprout curled up beside them. The warmth of the flames and the soft sounds of the forest created a sense of peace, but Alex's mind was restless. "You've come so far," they said softly, their hand resting on Sprout's back. "You're stronger, braver, and smarter than the little one I found that day. But I can't stay with you forever. You need to find your place in this world." Sprout chirped softly, its golden eyes meeting Alex's. It seemed to understand, its small body pressing closer as if to say, "I trust you." Alex smiled, their heart full of both pride and sadness. "We'll find your family," they promised. "And when we do, I'll know you're where you're meant to be." The days that followed were filled with determination. Alex and Sprout set out on a new journey, venturing deeper into the prehistoric wilderness in search of a Triceratops herd. Alex knew that finding Sprout's family, or any herd that would accept the baby, was the only way to ensure its survival. Sprout, ever the curious and energetic companion, trotted alongside Alex, occasionally pausing to investigate a particularly interesting plant or sniff at the ground. Alex couldn't help but smile at the little dinosaur's enthusiasm. Despite the uncertainty of their mission, Sprout's presence made every step of the journey worthwhile. "Let's keep moving," Alex said one morning, adjusting the straps of their backpack. "The sooner we find a herd, the better," Sprout chirped in agreement, its tiny tail swishing behind it as it followed Alex through the dense forest. The sunlight filtered through the towering trees, casting dappled patterns on the ground. The air was filled with the sounds of chirping insects and distant roars, a constant reminder of the untamed world they were navigating. Their journey was not without challenges. On the third day, they came across a wide river, its fast-moving currents a formidable obstacle. Alex hesitated at the edge, studying the water and trying to determine the safest way across. Sprout, however, seemed undeterred. It stepped forward, its small hooves sinking into the muddy bank. Alex quickly grabbed the baby's frill, pulling it back. "Hold on, Sprout," they said. "We need to think this through." After some searching, Alex found a fallen tree that stretched partway across the river. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was their best option. "Stay close to me," Alex said, guiding Sprout onto the makeshift bridge. The crossing was tense. The tree wobbled under their weight, and the rushing water below threatened to sweep them away. Sprout let out a nervous chirp, its small body trembling as it followed Alex. But together, they made it to the other side, where they collapsed onto the grass, exhausted but relieved. "Good job, Sprout," Alex said, their voice filled with pride. "You're braver than you know." Sprout nuzzled Alex's arm, its golden eyes shining with trust. The bond between them had only grown stronger, and Alex felt a renewed determination to find the baby a safe home. As they continued their journey, Alex began to notice signs that they were getting closer to a Triceratops herd. They found deep footprints in the mud, as well as large piles of dung that suggested a group of herbivores had recently passed through the area. "This is it," Alex said, crouching down to examine the tracks. "We're on the right path," Sprout chirped excitedly, its small tail swishing back and forth. Alex smiled, their hearts swelling with hope. They followed the tracks for hours, their anticipation growing with each step. By the time the sun began to set, they heard the distant sound of low, rumbling calls. "There they are," Alex whispered, pointing to a clearing up ahead. Through the trees, they could see a herd of Triceratops grazing in the tall grass. The sight was both awe-inspiring and bittersweet. Alex knew this was what Sprout needed, but the thought of saying goodbye was already weighing heavily on their heart. As they approached the herd, Sprout hesitated, its small body pressing against Alex's leg. "It's okay," Alex said gently. "This is your family. They'll take care of you." Sprout let out a soft chirp, its golden eyes filled with uncertainty. Alex knelt down, resting a hand on the baby's frill. "You're strong, Sprout," they said. "You've come so far. You can do this." With Alex's encouragement, Sprout took a few tentative steps toward the herd. The adult Triceratops noticed the baby almost immediately, their heads turning as they let out low, curious calls. Sprout stopped, its small body trembling as the herd began to approach. One of the adults, a massive Triceratops with scars along its frill, stepped forward, its deep bellow filling the air. It lowered its head, inspecting Sprout with a mix of curiosity and caution. Alex held their breath, watching intently as the two dinosaurs sized each other up. But just as it seemed like the adult might accept Sprout, another member of the herd let out a sharp call. The herd began to move away, their massive bodies creating a wall that seemed to shut Sprout out. The baby let out a plaintive cry, its small legs scrambling to follow, but the herd showed no interest in taking it in. Alex's heart sank. They rushed forward, scooping Sprout into their arms as the baby began to cry. "It's okay," Alex said, their voice shaking with emotion. "We'll figure something out. I'm not giving up on you." That night, Alex and Sprout camped a short distance from the herd, their spirits low. Alex couldn't stop replaying the moment in their mind, wondering what they could have done differently. Sprout curled up beside them, its small body pressed close for comfort. "I'm sorry, Sprout," Alex whispered, stroking the baby's frill. "I thought this would work. I thought they'd take you back." Sprout let out a soft chirp, its golden eyes shining with a mixture of sadness and trust. Alex felt a surge of determination. "We're not done yet," they said firmly. "If this herd won't accept you, we'll find another. You deserve a chance, and I'm not giving up until you get it." The next morning, Alex and Sprout continued their journey, following the herd from a safe distance. Alex hoped that if they gave the adults more time, they might eventually warm up to the baby. But the herd's behavior didn't change. They remained indifferent to Sprout, their focus solely on their own survival. It wasn't until the third day that everything changed. The herd had stopped to graze near a river, their massive bodies casting long shadows across the landscape. Sprout watched from a distance, its small body trembling with a mix of longing and fear. Suddenly, a deafening roar shattered the calm. From the trees emerged a predator, a massive allosaurus with sharp teeth and a hungry glint in its eyes. The herd immediately went on high alert, their deep bellows filling the air as they formed a defensive circle. Sprout froze, its golden eyes wide with terror. Alex's heart raced as they grabbed their spear, their mind racing. "Stay close to me, Sprout," they said, their voice steady despite the fear coursing through them. The allosaurus charged, its powerful legs propelling it forward with terrifying speed. The herd stood their ground, their horns lowered as they prepared to defend themselves. But as the predator circled, its sharp eyes locked onto Sprout, a smaller, easier target. "No!" Alex shouted, stepping in front of the baby. They raised their spear, their hands trembling but determined. The allosaurus let out a guttural growl, its massive jaws snapping as it lunged toward them. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. Sprout let out a loud, piercing cry, a sound that seemed to echo across the valley. The herd, hearing the baby's desperate call, sprang into action. The scarred Triceratops charged forward, its massive horns aimed directly at the allosaurus. The predator hesitated, its sharp claws scraping against the ground as it tried to dodge the attack. But the herd was relentless, their unity and strength forcing the allosaurus to retreat. Within moments, the predator disappeared into the trees, its growls fading into the distance. Alex stood frozen, their heart pounding as the reality of what had just happened sank in. Sprout chirped softly, nuzzling against Alex's leg as if to say, "Thank you." But the most remarkable moment came next. The scarred Triceratops approached Sprout, its deep bellow resonating with something that sounded almost like approval. It lowered its head, gently nudging the baby with its massive horns. One by one, the other members of the herd followed, surrounding Sprout with low, rumbling calls. "They're accepting you," Alex whispered, their voice filled with awe. "You're one of them now." Sprout let out an excited chirp, its small tail wagging as it nuzzled against the adults. The herd's acceptance was undeniable, and Alex felt a mixture of joy and heartache as they realized their journey together was coming to an end. Alex stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as Sprout was surrounded by the Triceratops herd. The scarred leader lowered its massive head once more, nudging Sprout with surprising gentleness. The other adults echoed the leader's acceptance with soft, rumbling calls, their towering bodies forming a protective circle around the baby. Tears welled in Alex's eyes as they witnessed the moment. For weeks, they had nurtured and protected Sprout, but this was what the little dinosaur had needed all along. A family, a place where it truly belonged. Sprout chirped happily, its small body practically vibrating with excitement as it nuzzled against the adults. Alex smiled through their tears, pride and relief washing over them. "You did it, Sprout," they whispered. "You found your family." But even as joy filled their heart, Alex felt the first pangs of sadness. They had known from the start that their time with Sprout was temporary, that their role was to help the baby find its place in the world. Still, the thought of saying goodbye was almost unbearable. The herd began to move, their massive bodies swaying as they turned toward the riverbank. Sprout paused, glancing back at Alex with wide, golden eyes. For a moment, it looked uncertain, as though torn between its new family and the human who had cared for it. Alex knelt, holding out their hand. "Go on, Sprout," they said softly. "This is where you're meant to be." Sprout let out a plaintive chirp, taking a hesitant step forward. Alex's heart clenched as they saw the baby's confusion and reluctance. "You'll be safe with them," Alex continued. "You're strong now. You can do this." With a final glance, Sprout turned and followed the herd. Alex watched as the little dinosaur trotted after the adults, its tiny tail swishing behind it. The scarred leader let out a low, approving bellow, guiding Sprout into the center of the group. As the herd disappeared into the distance, Alex remained rooted to the spot, their emotions a swirling mix of pride, sadness, and gratitude. They had done what they had set out to do, but the ache of parting from Sprout lingered in their chest. That evening, Alex sat by a small fire, staring into the flickering flames. The sounds of the prehistoric wilderness surrounded them, but the absence of Sprout felt deafening. The baby's chirps, its playful nudges, and its unwavering trust had become a part of Alex's daily life. Now, the silence felt almost unbearable. Alex pulled out their notebook, flipping to a blank page. They began to sketch, their hand moving instinctively as they captured the image of Sprout in the clearing, surrounded by its new family. The drawing brought a bittersweet smile to their face. "You'll always be with me, Sprout," Alex murmured. "No matter where I go." The next morning, Alex packed up their camp, preparing to continue their own journey. The mission that had brought them to this prehistoric world wasn't over yet, and there was still so much to learn and discover. But as they shouldered their backpack, they paused, glancing toward the direction where the herd had disappeared. A part of Alex wanted to follow to ensure that Sprout was truly safe and thriving. But they knew they couldn't interfere any further. The herd had accepted Sprout, and it was time to let the baby grow and thrive on its own. Taking a deep breath, Alex turned and began walking. The path ahead was uncertain, but they carried the memory of Sprout with them, a reminder of the incredible bond they had shared. As the days turned into weeks, Alex continued their exploration of the prehistoric world. They marveled at the towering Brachiosaurus grazing in the treetops, watched packs of feathered raptors hunt with coordinated precision, and studied the behaviors of herbivores as they moved in herds across the plains. But no matter how many wonders they encountered, Alex's thoughts often drifted back to Sprout. They found themselves searching for signs of the Triceratops herd, hoping for a glimpse of the baby they had cared for. Each time they found fresh tracks or heard distant bellows, their heart leapt with hope. It wasn't until one particularly cool morning, as Alex walked along a ridge overlooking a vast valley, that they finally saw the herd again. The sight took their breath away. The Triceratops were grazing near a shallow stream, their massive forms casting long shadows across the grass. And there, in the center of the group, was Sprout. Sprout had grown in the weeks since Alex had last seen it. Its small horns were more pronounced now, and its frill had taken on richer hues of green and gold. The baby moved with confidence, its tiny legs carrying it alongside the adults as though it had always been a part of the herd. Alex smiled, their chests swelling with pride. Sprout was thriving, just as they had hoped. The baby had found its place in the world, and Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing they had played a role in that. As Alex watched, Sprout paused and looked up toward the ridge. Its golden eyes locked onto Alex's, and for a moment, it was as though the distance between them didn't exist. Sprout let out a loud chirp, its tail swishing excitedly. Alex raised a hand in farewell, their smile widening. "You're doing great, Sprout," they said softly. "Keep being brave." The scarred leader of the herd let out a deep bellow, and Sprout turned to follow. The herd began to move, their massive bodies swaying as they continued their journey. Alex watched until they disappeared into the distance, their hearts full of both pride and longing. The months that followed were filled with new discoveries and challenges, but Alex never forgot about Sprout. The little dinosaur had left an indelible mark on their heart, a reminder of the extraordinary bond that could form between two vastly different beings. When Alex finally returned to their own time, they brought with them not only the data they had collected but also the memories of their time with Sprout. They shared their story with colleagues, friends, and eventually the world, hoping to inspire others to see the value in protecting and caring for the vulnerable. Alex also created a detailed illustration of Sprout and the Triceratops herd, which they hung in their office as a constant reminder of the lessons they had learned. Whenever they looked at it, they felt a deep sense of gratitude for the experience, for the bond they had shared, and for the knowledge that they had made a difference. Years later, Alex published a book about their journey, titled The Bond Beyond Time, a paleontologist's journey with a Triceratops. The book became a bestseller, captivating readers with its blend of scientific discovery and heartfelt storytelling. Alex received letters from people all over the world, many of whom shared their own stories of connection with animals. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a young girl who had recently adopted a rescued animal. "Your story about Sprout gave me the courage to take in a puppy that no one else wanted," she wrote. "He's my best friend now, and I owe it all to you." Alex smiled as they read the letter, their hearts swelling with pride. Sprout's legacy had reached far beyond the prehistoric world, touching the lives of countless people and animals in the present. On a quiet evening, as Alex sat by their desk, they found themselves gazing at the illustration of Sprout. The memory of the little dinosaur remained as vivid as ever, a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and the bonds that could transcend time and species. "Thank you, Sprout," Alex murmured, their voice filled with emotion, "for everything." And as the stars twinkled outside the window, Alex felt a quiet peace settle over them, knowing that their journey with Sprout had left a lasting impact, not just on their life, but on the world. Alex's life returned to the rhythm of modern-day research and teaching, but the echoes of their time with Sprout lingered in every aspect of their work. The paleontologist became a well-known figure, not just for their groundbreaking studies on dinosaurs, but for the moving story of their journey with Sprout, which had captivated people around the world. After publishing their book, The Bond Beyond Time, a paleontologist's journey with the Triceratops, Alex received invitations to speak at conferences, schools, and community events. They used these platforms not only to share their incredible experience, but also to advocate for the conservation of modern wildlife and the importance of protecting vulnerable species. During one particularly memorable presentation at a university, Alex stood before a packed auditorium, a massive screen behind them displaying the illustration of Sprout and the Triceratops herd. "Sprout taught me something that years of research never could," Alex began, their voice steady and filled with emotion. "It's not just about survival. It's about connection. It's about the bonds we form across species, across time, across all the things that seem to divide us. Those bonds are what give life its meaning." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Alex glanced at the screen, their gaze softening as they looked at the image of Sprout. "When I found Sprout, it was lost, abandoned, and vulnerable. But what I didn't realize was how much it would teach me about resilience, trust, and love. It reminded me that no creature is too small, too insignificant, to make a difference." The room erupted into applause, and Alex stepped back, overwhelmed by the response. After the talk, people lined up to speak with them, many sharing their own stories of connection with animals. One young boy proudly showed Alex a photo of his adopted dog, saying, "I named him Sprout. He's my best friend." Alex felt a lump rise in their throat as they looked at the photo. "Sprout would be proud," they said with a smile. "Take good care of him." The legacy of Sprout's story extended far beyond the lecture halls and book signings. Inspired by Alex's journey, a group of conservationists launched a foundation called Sprout's Hope, dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating endangered animals. The foundation's symbol was a small Triceratops, its frill raised in a stance of courage and strength. Alex was invited to serve as an honorary advisor for the foundation, a role they embraced with enthusiasm. Through Sprout's Hope, they traveled to wildlife sanctuaries and rescue centers around the world, meeting animals that had been given a second chance at life. Each encounter reminded Alex of the little dinosaur that had changed their life and strengthened their resolve to make a difference. Despite their busy schedule, Alex often found moments of quiet reflection. On warm summer evenings, they would sit on their porch with a cup of tea, gazing at the stars. It was during these moments that they felt closest to Sprout, as though the little dinosaur was still with them, watching over them from another time. One evening, as the sky turned shades of pink and orange, Alex found themselves sketching again. Their hand moved instinctively, capturing the details of Sprout's expressive eyes and the unique pattern of its frill. The finished drawing joined the growing collection of Sprout-inspired artwork that decorated their home. "You'll always be a part of me," Alex murmured, their voice barely audible over the gentle rustling of the trees. "Thank you for everything you taught me." Years passed, and Alex continued to dedicate their life to education, conservation, and storytelling. They became a mentor to young paleontologists, sharing not only their knowledge but also their passion for the natural world. Many of their students cited Sprout's story as the reason they had pursued careers in science and conservation. One of those students, a bright and determined young woman named Leah, approached Alex after class one day. "Dr. Alex," she began, her voice filled with excitement, "I've been working on a project inspired by your journey with Sprout. I've been studying herd dynamics in herbivorous dinosaurs, and I think I've found evidence that abandoned juveniles might have been more common than we thought." Alex's eyes lit up. "That's incredible, Leah. Tell me more." As Leah explained her findings, Alex felt a surge of pride. The impact of their time with Sprout continued to ripple outward, shaping new discoveries and inspiring the next generation of scientists. One summer, Alex was invited to visit a state-of-the-art dinosaur exhibit at a natural history museum. The centerpiece of the exhibit was a life-sized model of a Triceratops herd, complete with a small juvenile modeled after Sprout. The sight took Alex's breath away. The exhibit's curator greeted Alex warmly. "This wouldn't have been possible without your story," he said, gesturing toward the model. "Sprout has become a symbol of resilience and hope. We wanted to honor that." As Alex walked through the exhibit, they were struck by the sheer magnitude of Sprout's legacy. Children pointed excitedly at the juvenile Triceratops, their faces lighting up as they listened to the story of how it had been rescued and reunited with its herd. Parents read aloud from plaques that emphasized the importance of compassion and the interconnectedness of all living beings. At the end of the exhibit, Alex found a quiet corner where a quote from their book was displayed. "It's not just about survival. It's about connection." They stood there for a long time, their heart full of gratitude. One particularly quiet evening, Alex received an unexpected package in the mail. Inside was a small figurine of a Triceratops, meticulously crafted and painted to resemble Sprout. A handwritten note accompanied it. "Thank you for sharing your journey. Sprout's story gave me hope when I needed it most. This is my way of saying thank you." Alex held the figurine in their hand, marveling at the care and detail that had gone into its creation. They placed it on their desk, next to the sketches and photos that had become a tribute to their time in the prehistoric world. As Alex grew older, their adventures became less frequent, but their dedication to making a difference never wavered. They continued to write, teach, and inspire, their work always guided by the lessons they had learned from Sprout. On their 75th birthday, surrounded by friends, family, and former students, Alex was presented with a surprise: a mural depicting Sprout's journey, painted on the wall of the local wildlife sanctuary. The mural was vibrant and lifelike, capturing the bond between Alex and the little Triceratops in stunning detail. "This is incredible," Alex said, their voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you." A young child in the crowd, clutching a stuffed Triceratops toy, stepped forward. "Is Sprout still out there?" the child asked, their eyes wide with curiosity. Alex knelt down, smiling gently. "I'd like to think so," they said. "Sprout's spirit lives on in every act of kindness, every moment of connection. And as long as we remember that, Sprout will always be with us." As the years continued to pass, Alex's life became a testament to the power of one small dinosaur's journey. They spent their final days in quiet reflection, surrounded by the memories and mementos of their time with Sprout. And when they passed peacefully in their sleep, they left behind a legacy that would endure for generations.